Today I will show you how to knit selbu socks like these. These are for children, size approximately 1 to 2 years. They measure about 13 centimeters or 5 inches from heel to toe. They look like this from underneath. And they have this lace knitted ankle part or cuff. And they are knitted in a wool yarn, and you should be okay using yarn that is intended to make between 26 and 30 plus stitches for every 10 centimeters or 4 inches when using knitting needles size 2.5 millimeters. And I will link to these two patterns that I have made, but you can also make your own. Just Google selbu patterns and you will get just lots of pictures to where you can find inspiration. So for these socks I will cast on 44 stitches evenly distributed on 4 knitting needles. That will be 11 stitches for every knitting needle. This is my first stitch, and when I cast on for socks and mittens and things where I need good elasticity, I usually do a single cast on like this. I just put my finger underneath, up, and I twist so I get a loop around my finger. I take my needle down, push my yarn down here, I go under the loop and up through the loop, let it go, and I pull slightly. If I tighten it too much, it will be really difficult to knit the first row, so I'll try not to do that. Down and up through the loop, let go and pull. So the disadvantage by doing it like this is that it will be, the first row will be a bit unstable and sometimes a bit frustrating to knit, because you can pull each stitch like this and get these gaps. But it's really not difficult when you're just aware that it might be a problem. So if you focus a little bit on it, it will be okay. And after you are finished knitting your first row, it will be okay, and you will not be able to see any gaps or anything else that will be visible. So I will just keep on. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. My second knitting needle I will put underneath like this and just hold it steady, and I just continue to cast on 11 stitches on this as well, making sure the first stitch gets really close to the last one, and then I just keep going. That should be 11. Yeah. And I do the same with my third needle. Make sure the first stitch gets as close as possible to the last one. my fourth. Okay, so now I have 44 stitches. I will just organize my needles so that I have, this is the first needle where I have my yarn end. I will put that on top of the second one and hold it in my left hand. The last one, the fourth needle here, I will do the same on top of the other one, and the yarn I will hold over these two fingers and I will secure it with my little finger. There are several different techniques of how you hold the yarn, but just do whatever suits you. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to purl 2 rows. I will start then by taking my 5th needle. I go behind my yarn and I stick the needle through the first stitch from underneath and up, and this is, it can be a bit tricky. I just have to loosen it a little bit. Okay, so from here and up, I will go behind my yarn again to pick up the yarn and pull it through the stitch, and I pull to get it as close to my last stitch here as possible. And again, behind my yarn, I go underneath the stitch and up, behind my yarn again to pick it up and pull it through the stitch and let go. Don't pull too hard. And these little gaps, don't mind them, they will be gone when you have knitted 1 or 2 rows. So I will just keep going to show you what to do when you go from the first to the second needle. Just make sure when you have knitted another stitch that you don't pull too hard on this needle, because then you will just create bigger gaps. So so now I have my last stitch here, and as you can see now I didn't get really much of a gap here, but you might get a bigger one. Anyway, what you do is that you just make sure when you knit your first stitch on a new needle, when you pull it loose, you just make sure it ends up close to the last one. So, and to decrease this gap that you get, just make sure when you knit that you, when you get here, you don't pull. You just try and knit the second one without making too much tension. And there you go. As you can see now, the gap is about half of what it was. And when you keep going, this is, it will be almost gone after your first row. After your second row you won't see anything at all. So I will continue and purl this row and another one. So in all I will purl 2 rows, and I will get back to you with how to knit the lace cuff. Now I am finished with my 2 rows of purl knitting, so now I will start to do the lace, and this is done in 2 steps. First row, you purl the first stitch, next 2 stitches you knit together like this, and then you knit 2 stitches, then you do I think it's called a yarn forward. Anyway, it looks like this, just secure here, and you knit 2 stitches, yarn forward, knit 2 stitches, last 2 stitches you knit together. Just stick the knitting needle through both stitches and knit them as one, like this. I will show you one more time. Purl the first stitch, and then this next 2 stitches you knit together, knit 2 stitches, yarn forward, knit 2 stitches, yarn forward, knit 2 stitches, and the last 2 you knit together. So you just continue until your row is finished, and then I will show you what to do on the second row. So I'm done with the first row, and I will show you the second one. Then you just purl the first stitch like this, and all the rest of the stitches you just knit. And here you can see I have my yarn forward. When I knit that, I will have made the first hole of my lace. So, and what I just did I will repeat on each needle. First stitch I will purl and I will knit the rest. And here you can see I've begun to make my lace. So I will repeat these 2 rows until the cuff or ankle part of my sock is the length that I want. And when it has reached the required length, I will just knit 3 rows. Just knit all the way around. So I will do that, and I will get back to you with how to make the heel. So here I am, finished with my lace ankle, and I have knitted the 3 last rows as well. So now I will start knitting the heel. And now I have 2 colors of yarn. This is my bottom or main color, and this is my pattern color. When I knit with 2 colors, I like to hold it like this. Bottom color here and pattern color over one more finger, and I just secure it still with my little finger. And there are many techniques of doing this, and you just choose the one you prefer. So the only thing that is important is that you always keep the same color towards you and away from you. If you switch places, then you will see that your pattern will look irregular and not as good. So that is the most important thing to remember. I will start, when I knit my heel, I will use knitting needle number 1 and 4. These 2 I will leave for now. So I will just start knitting 1 with bottom color and 1 with pattern color, blue, white, blue and white. And I will do that to the end of my needle like this. And now I will turn around and I will purl back to the beginning of the row. And now I have to make sure that I keep the yarn on my side, these, so that this yarn will not end up on the right side of the sock. I want them on the wrong side, or the inside. And when I turn around and go back, I want to take the first stitch loose off like this, and I take my yarn and put it between my knitting needles here, and I need to purl back. I take my knitting needle here behind both yarns, and I just pick up the blue one, because I'm knitting blue over white and white over blue to make the pattern. And again go behind, pick up the blue stitch. I now need to pick up the white only, like this. I go underneath the blue again, and the same way. I find it a bit difficult to explain this in a good way, so you just have to watch. So anyway, make sure always behind, keep both yarns on your side towards you. Behind, pick up the blue, go behind again to pick up the opposite color. And I will keep going until I am back at the start, or at the beginning of the row, like this. And then I will continue the same way . Just keep some tension on it so that you don't get gaps and holes in your work. like this. And I will turn my work around again. As you can see, this here is the beginning of my row. I will take the first stitch loose off. I don't have to do anything about my yarn now because it's already away from me and does not cross my work. I should explain, by the way, the reason why I put both yarns in between the first and the second stitch when I was over here. That is because if you let the yarn go and cross here on the outside, then it will look like you have created little knots along the edge of the heel, and that will both look uneven and it will be difficult when you have to pick up and make stitches there to complete the heel afterwards. So always when you have the yarn on your side of the work, just make them pass through here and not on the side. So anyway, here I just knit my way back to the beginning of the row, and I do white over blue and blue over white. And that I will continue doing on the whole heel and sole of the sock. Okay, so now I have knitted the first 2 rows of the heel. So I shall continue doing this back and forth until I have 10 rows. And then I will get back to you and explain how to continue the heel. Now I have knitted my 10 rows and I will start to shape my heel. And you will start at the beginning of the row and knit 2 stitches. You just keep on knitting the pattern all the way, and you knit 2 stitches. The next 2 stitches you knit together like this, and you also knit the next stitch. Then you turn around and you just have to organize the yarn a bit. Okay, and I will take the first stitch on my way back loose off like this, and then I put my yarn in between the first stitch and rest, and I purl my way back to the beginning of the row the same way as I did before. Like this. And now you can see I have made a gap here. That is the way it should be. And the other way, I begin by purling 2 stitches. 1, 2. I purl 2 together like this, and I purl 1 more, and then I turn my work around again, Try and get all my yarn and my knitting needles organized. Take one stitch loose off. And then I knit my way back to the beginning of my row. So now I have a gap here and a gap here. On the next row, I start knitting. When I get to the gap, I take the last stitch before the gap and the first stitch after the gap, and I knit those two together. And then I knit the next stitch. And I turn around and I do the same thing the opposite way like I did before. First I just take one stitch loose off and I purl my way back to the beginning. And here I purl the three first stitches. I purl those two together, purl the next one, I turn around, first stitch loose off, and I go just back and forth. And when I do that, I will move the gap further and further out towards the sides. And when I no longer have a gap, that I'm finished doing this, I will have 7 stitches remaining on each needle, and then I will get back to you on how to do the next step. Now you can see I am done shaping the heel. I have 7 stitches left on each of my 2 needles here. And the next step is to pick up 9 stitches from each side of the heel to connect the heel with the rest of the sock so that I can start knitting the foot. So I will start by knitting needle number 1 here. And I will have these stitches on the edge here, and you can see that they make small loops here. I have 3, 4, 5 of those. But I will need to pick up 9 stitches. So I will have to be a bit creative as well to make room for all 9 stitches. So I will begin here right at the top. And I will also, if I just pick up the stitch here and knit it, you can see I will get this big hole, and I don't want that. So each stitch I pick up, I will also twist. I will show you on the second one because there's more room there. So, and now I will continue knitting the pattern I did on the heel, so I will need a white a white stitch first. Okay, so here I pick up this, and you can see it's a big hole. I put my left needle through like this, and then my right needle again, and make them switch places like that. And then I can pick up the yarn I need and pull through. Now you can see that it is twisted and it will not make this big hole. And when I pick up the next, I do the same. Left needle through, right one underneath, switch places, pick up white yarn this time and pull through. And you can see it will be quite firm and no big holes. So and I will do one more. Like this. And I have to make room for more stitches. Now I only pick up, because here this is double when I pick up this. I only take one, and I twist that as well. And then I go to the next one. You just have to try and see what works for you here, really. I have 6, so I think this, I need just 3 more, so I think this will be okay now. And one more from here. I think this will be good. Okay, so I'm satisfied with that one. And now I will first knit the side bands, and they will be blue, white, blue. That is the side band. And actually, to make this a bit easier, I will organize myself so I get all the stitches on the heel on the first knitting needle. Then it will be a bit easier to follow the next step. Okay, so here I begin needle number 2 with the side band, and then I knit the pattern of the sock. I will just have to get this to see how I shall knit. And here, after needle number 2, I will pick up 1 stitch right at the top of the foot. I will twist that as well, like this. I will just continue to knit the pattern, and now 3 stitches left for the second side band, like this. And now I have to pick up another 9 stitches here, same way as I did before, and just to knit the last 7 stitches on the heel, and I will get back to you with the next step. So now I have also picked up my 9 stitches on that side, and I'm back to the beginning of my row. So I will just start my next row with continuing to knit the heel and foot pattern. And I will do so until I have 2 stitches left, like this. And these 2 stitches I will knit together, and I will, when I am on my first knitting needle, I knit them together by sticking my right knitting needle through both stitches away from the heel. So from the heel on the right and towards the left. And I will knit them together like this. Then I will just continue to knit the side bands, blue, white, blue, and the main pattern of the sock. The next side band, blue, white, blue. And now I'm back at the heel, and I will knit the first 2 stitches here together, and then again away from the heel. So I will stick my knitting needle through from the left and towards right and away from the heel, like this. And then I will continue knitting the heel and foot pattern until I am finished with my row. And now I will knit round and round and round. On knitting needle 1 and 4 I will knit the heel and foot pattern. On knitting needle 2 and 3 I will knit the side bands and the main pattern. And let's see, yeah, talking and knitting at the same time is not a good idea for me. Anyway, when I do this on every row, I will knit 2 together on each side until I have 10 stitches remaining on knitting needle 1 and 4. And when you have those 10 remaining, you just keep going and keep knitting your foot until you are ready to make the toe. And I will get back to you on how to do that. I am now done knitting the foot of my sock and I'm ready to decrease to make the toe. As you can see here on the finished sock, the toe angles here from the right to the left and here from the left and to the right. So for each side I will have different technique to decrease, and it will be the same on the back or on the sole of the sock. So I'm now at the beginning of the row and I will start knitting the pattern here, and I will do so until I have 2 stitches left, like this. And here the angle goes from left to right. Then I will knit the next to last stitch. I will put it back on my left needle. The last stitch here I will just pull over. Then I will put the stitch back on my right knitting needle. Then I will knit the side band, blue, white and blue. Here the toe will angle from right to left, and then I will just take the first stitch loose off. I will knit the next one and take the first one loose over, and then I continue knitting. And I will do the same when I come here. This is the side band. I will knit the next to last stitch, put it back on my needle as I did before, and pull the last one over and put it back on my right needle. I will knit the side band and I will take this one loose off, knit this one, pull the first one loose over and continue knitting. And I will keep doing this so that I decrease with 4 stitches on each row until I have 10 stitches remaining, and then I will get back to you on how to finish. I now have 10 stitches left and I have gotten rid of 2 of the knitting needles. And I will just knit the 10 remaining stitches. I will use one of my yarn ends. I have cut the yarn and I will just start knitting. But for each stitch I knit, I will just pull my yarn end through. Just pull it completely through the stitches. And I will do the same thing with all 10 stitches. Sorry about the background entertainment today, but someone just did not want to take a nap today. And there you have the last stitch, and now it really looks a bit awkward and pointy. So what I will do is that I will put one finger inside so I can see my finger through this hole in the tip. I will take both yarn ends, do like this, and I will turn my sock inside out and pull the yarn ends through, and I will slightly pull them to tighten. Just feel how much I can pull them without damaging anything. I will make one simple knot here, And later I will fasten these on the inside. And I will turn the sock back, and now you can see the toe looks better. So there you go. Selbu sock for children's size. I would say 1 to 2 years old. Yeah. You want to try them?